Hello, I'm Org, and in this World of Warships video we are going to be looking at two ships for a change. First up we're going to have the Tatsuta, the Japanese Tier 3 light cruiser. Then after this we're going to talk about the Kuma, the Japanese Tier 4 light cruiser. And I've put them both in the same video just because they are very similar ships. I should also point out at the start that, well, the Kuma is my favourite ship in the game, and the Tatsuta would be pretty close, at least, to being my second favourite ship in the game. I actually think they are both under-tiered, which I will talk a bit about during the video. Before we start, we'll just go over some of the stats. Well, of the Tatsuta first, since I'm going to talk about this one first. It's Tier 3 light cruiser. It's only got 4 guns. They're 140mm guns. They are pretty accurate, and they shoot fairly fast, and they have decent range. But being small and there's only 4 of them, you just don't have a very powerful broadside. But the Tatsuta makes up for this by having 6 torpedo tubes, and just for comparison, the Wakatake, the Tier 3 Japanese destroyer, only gets 4 of them, and they are the same I think they are actually the same torpedo tubes. The Tatsuta, the cruiser, just gets 2 more of them. The torpedoes have a 7km range, which is pretty good at Tier 3. And as you see, the Tatsuta, it's also, well, 33 knots isn't hugely fast, but it's fast enough. 800m circular turning radius is pretty good, and the 5.2 second shift time for the rudder is actually pretty exceptional. Which means I just really like the maneuverability of this ship. And I'll just show you a couple of games to see what it can do. As I say, the light cruisers, they're my favourite type of ship to play. And that's because I kind of like that you can play them pretty aggressively. And they've basically got the speed and hit points to get you out of trouble, while having the firepower to do a fair bit of damage close up to the enemy. They're also excellent at killing enemy destroyers, and, well, yes, enemy light cruisers as well, and they can put up a bit of a fight to enemy heavy cruisers and battleships, since light cruisers generally have torpedoes. See me at the start here, almost ramming my friendly battleship when I was trying to go in front of it. But thanks to the maneuverability of the ship, I'm able to actually turn quite sharply and cut in front of it, with no problems whatsoever. This game was late at night. It was actually just before the servers went down to update the latest patch of the game. So you're not going to be able to see the final results because, well, they didn't show up for me either. The server stopped. Anyway, we have seen the enemy battleship, and well, it's a long way away, but it looks to be slowly coming towards us. That cruiser's a little bit closer. But what I was intending to do here was to basically hit up this line of islands and try and ambush some kind of cruisers up in the northeastern corner of this map where they usually like to go. And essentially just fire torpedoes and use my guns to just do as much damage as I can. Which isn't actually ideal because there's only one friendly cruiser up here, and all the rest of my team's kind of heading in the opposite direction. We've come within range of this cruiser, so fire 4 shots because that's my full broadside. And they all missed. Tried again, but this is kind of the maximum range of my guns, so I can't really expect to get many hits on the target here. Well, I got one, did just shy of 1,000 damage, which is pretty good. I think the maximum these 140mm guns can do is just over 3,000. Okay, there's the battleship. I think it took a shot at me there, but I got lucky that shots, well, they just missed. But it looks like I missed the battleship as well, so it's okay. 1 hit on the enemy so far, which is alright. I've lost a little bit of health, but not a lot. It's St. Louis, but it's out of gun range. And that battleship I was shooting at earlier is coming basically directly towards us. but it looks like it's going to be unsupported, and there's myself and another cruiser up here. So I'm expecting about now it'll be able to see the other cruiser, and we saw the other cruiser shooting it, so I was expecting the battleship to shoot back at the cruiser, which means it won't be watching me come around this corner, and I'm about to fire some torpedoes. Now I'm just kind of checking to make sure that I'm not going to hit the friendly cruiser. But no, the friendly cruiser is turning towards me, so I should be able to get these off without any worries. And there they go. And the friendly cruiser, it's a Kuma, and it's also launched its torpedoes. So now we are switching to our guns. And these 140mm guns, they're basically not going to penetrate the battleship's armour, but they'll do a little bit of damage. Quite often switch to high explosive just to cause fires and whatnot, since it's a bit annoying. The Kuma's torpedoes, 2 of them hit, but mine go in front of its bow. But I can see it's not shooting at me yet, so I'm actually trying to get around, well, I call it the blind side, the side that its guns aren't pointing at. And in 8 seconds I'll be able to fire my, well, another spread of torpedoes. So, lining up. I only fired 3 that time because I want to see if it manoeuvred before I fired my second shots. Just so, like I say, if it does start turning, these ones will hopefully catch it after the turn. And that Kuma who was up here with me is now dead. I get 1 torpedo on target, and its guns are turning around. Its front turret looks like it's facing now, and I'm within range of secondaries, but I can't actually get any further away because I've reached the edge of the map. And I'm not going to survive long into this fire, especially if that forward turret, well, it's pointed directly at me now, so if that hits me I'm pretty well screwed. But my torpedoes will be up in another 3 seconds. And here goes 3 of them, and 10 seconds to my next 3. Now I took a big hit there from some of their guns, the battleship's guns it is, and it kills me. But, well, 2 of my 3 torpedoes hit. The 3rd would have hit, but the ship was already dead. And so that's kind of what I was talking about. The light cruisers, they have the firepower that they can basically take on battleships, but you're not going to survive that. And well, because of their guns, they're actually very good at killing enemy destroyers, and light cruisers as well if you aim very well. I should point out the big downside of light cruisers is that they've got no armour, which means that they are basically just, well, huge citadel hitboxes that basically anybody can penetrate and do, well, battleships can do like 10,000 damage to you in 1 hit. And I think this battleship's about to run aground, and if not, well, it's going to die pretty soon. It looks like we're about to lose by capping more than anything, which is kind of an unfortunate way to go, but I'd got 44 hits on the enemy and 3 torpedo hits. Yeah, I've done my share. I mean, I didn't quite single-handedly kill that battleship because the Kuma was putting in shots as well. It got it got 2 torpedoes on target. But between us we took out a tier 4 battleship. And this is just kind of a shorter clip. It's kind of just going to show you why I think the Tatsuta is kind of a bit under-tiered, and it probably should be tier 4. I should say also that I think it should be tier 4. I think everybody else that plays the game disagrees, and that they basically think the ship is perfectly fine where it is, and that light cruisers kind of suck, but I really like them. Anyway, I'm firing away at a destroyer. I get 2 hits, and it takes about half of its health away. And, well, it sails into a friendly torpedo, so my next salvo misses. And as I said, play light cruisers aggressively. We are going and capping C. I definitely wouldn't come down here in a battleship because there's not enough room to manoeuvre, and even in a heavy cruiser I'd actually be hanging back and kind of just providing long-range fire support rather than just coming in here, because
our team has taken the lead.
If, say, these aircraft here launch torpedoes like they are about to, there's actually not a lot of room for you to manoeuvre to avoid them. Which means you need to be in a nice agile ship such as, well, the Tatsuta or a destroyer or another light cruiser. And even then, you saw they fired, must have been 12 torpedoes at that light cruiser, and it dodged all but one of them, which, you know, light cruisers are kind of good at dodging torpedoes. Anyway, we've captured C, and we are going to be pushing around this headland. But I'm actually kind of keeping an eye on the map, and I see that there's a cruiser over there, which looks like it's going to try and sneak through this channel and try and take back C once we've all head around the island here. And I'm just kind of wondering what to do, because going through that channel is kind of a stupid idea because there's absolutely no room to manoeuvre. But players do attempt it occasionally, and if we have all left, it will actually maybe be able to sneak the cap away from us. And, well, I think I'd actually better. So what I have to do first is I slow down. Actually, I put my ship into reverse just to make myself slow down a bit quicker. And that's just because I didn't want to have to ram this cruiser that was coming along behind me, whereas I'm obviously going to have to turn in that direction to be able to turn around and present my broadside to this guy when he comes out the other side of the channel.
Our team has taken the lead.
And it's kind of unfortunate, but someone has set a massive smokescreen right in the middle of our cap, or right in the middle of C, because it's contested now, so it's not ours, which means I won't be able to see this enemy cruiser until it's firing at me, basically. So I fire some torpedoes there blind, just in the hope that they might get lucky. It's also why I'm putting them on widespread. And I've been spotted, and there it is. Fortunately, the smokescreen cleared just in time. And that is an Omaha. It's a Tier 5 light cruiser, which means that, well, basically, I shouldn't be able to beat this guy in a fair fight. It's 2 tiers higher than me, the same class of ship. So I really should have no hope here. I managed to get a shot onto the citadel there, which does a fair bit of damage. And I've angled my ship towards it so that I'm presenting a very small target. But I have to dodge its torpedoes, which puts us almost broadside on. And again, I'm closing back to kind of get within close range of it. And now that we're in short range, I launch my torpedoes. Or rather, I launch one spread of them, hold my fire on the second for a bit until I see that I only got one hit there. And then go away with my guns. I get 3 citadel hits, and I'm coming around to try and get my torpedoes back in range. But I'm able to gun that guy down. And, well, I really don't think that should have happened. As you see, I only barely survived 800 hit points. And, well, I did play better than that Omaha, and that it was presenting its broadside to me at all times, which allowed me to put in my 6 citadel hits that was enabled me to kill it. But I don't know, even though I played a bit better than that ship, I still think that the tier difference should have been enough that it should have been able to kill me instead of just, almost killing me. And having said that, there actually isn't that huge a difference between the Tatsuta and the Omaha, which is the Tier 5 American light cruiser. There's a fair difference in guns, in that its broadside is 8 guns, whereas mine is 4, and its guns are bigger and have longer range. But we've got about the same armour. I think the Omaha is a bit faster, but not a lot faster. The Tatsuta's way more manoeuvrable. But the big advantage that Tatsuta has is that it's got much longer range on its torpedoes, which reload a lot quicker and have much better firing angles, although they do less damage. Actually, I think the Tatsutas are also faster torpedoes. So I'm kind of sitting there going, if the Omaha is a clear winner in terms of guns, Tatsuta's a clear winner in terms of torpedoes, and they're roughly similar in every other aspect. So I'm kind of going, they're actually not that different, at least not enough to justify a 2-tier spread. Whereas if you look at the Phoenix, which is the Tier 4 American light cruiser, and compare it to this, the Tatsuta, the Tier 3 Japanese light cruiser, it's actually even more similar because, well, the Phoenix basically gets a 5-gun broadside to the Tatsuta's 4, and the Tatsuta gets, you know, doesn't get more powerful torpedoes, but it gets faster, longer ranged, quicker reloading torpedoes, which I would argue makes it more powerful, even though they do less damage per hit. And the Tatsuta's probably slower but more manoeuvrable than the Phoenix, so I'm going to go, they should both be tier 4 light cruisers since they are very similar, or at least, you know, very similar in terms of relative strength. But anyway, back to the game. We are losing quite badly. There's only 4 ships on our team left, and the enemy have 6. The enemy hold 2 cap points, we hold 1, and unless I can get in here in cap B, we are basically going to lose on points pretty quickly. And I thought at the time I could sneak it, because it looks like most of the enemy ships are heading down to the south or to the north. But it's not to be the case. There is an enemy cruiser and battleship kind of heading in towards B from the other side. But I can see this cruiser's coming at me, and quite rapidly. So I was hoping to fire a torpedo spread at it before it had spotted me. And that way hopefully, well, I'd be able to kill it really quickly before I could take much in the way of return fire, because, well, as you all know, I don't really have a lot in the way of hit points. But it spotted me and it started turning, which means that, well, this island's basically going to be in the way of my torpedo attack. So I go around and I fire about 6 torpedoes off there. Again, I'm holding my shot for a bit just in case it does start manoeuvring. And, well, it's coming around, and I really do not want to get in the way of this ship, or get in the line of fire of its guns, at least until I have my torpedoes up and ready to go again, which is still another 30 seconds away. The battleship's firing at me, but I'm a very small target, and
The enemy is about to win.
it's not doing a very good job of it. Allied cruiser behind me fired its torpedoes, but it's taken some big hits and looks like it's about to die. Yep, in fact, it's just died then. And I've still got 10 seconds left on my torpedoes, but the enemy Omaha's come around the side here. Managed to destroy its engines there, and its first salvo misses me. And my torpedoes are up, I've just got to turn my ship enough to use them, but I'm not going to get the opportunity. And it turns out I was the last ship left on my team. So, yeah, we lost that one. Still managed to get 976 experience on a lost. Only hit 10 shots with my guns, but 6 of them were to the enemy citadel, which means they were doing 3,000 damage for each shot. And, well, I got a top score on my team, which is a bit surprising because I didn't actually do that much. Over to I did 30,000 damage, and my ships only got, we see there, 17,700 hit points. So I did almost twice my damage in that game, mostly through dueling that Omaha, which, as I said, I don't think I should have been able to beat in a fight. Anyway, at tier 4 we have the Kuma, which I also think would actually do fine at tier 5. It's basically a slightly larger version of the Tatsuta. There's 2 really important differences. Is that instead of the 4 guns of the Tatsuta, the Kuma has 7, which is 6 to a broadside. It's got the same... No, it doesn't. It's got slightly better torpedoes. They have the same range, but I think they're slightly faster. And instead of having kind of 6 in the centre that can fire to the left or right, it's got a total of 8 torpedo tubes, but only 4 of them can fire to either one side or the other. The other big difference between the Kuma and the Tatsuta is that the Kuma goes a lot faster. It can get, well, a lot faster, 3 knots faster, and hit a top speed of 36 knots. But it's slightly less manoeuvrable, and I actually find that's really noticeable in the Kuma. It just doesn't seem to turn very well, compared to the Tatsuta at least. Turning radius of 820 meters and a shift time of 7 seconds. That's still good enough to dodge basically almost all the torpedoes that will be fired at you, usually. You'll see me get hit by torpedoes once during this replay. Actually, no, twice, but you'll see. And, well, it's actually a lot bigger ship, so it gets a lot more combat capability. It can take a fair bit more damage. But it also gets detected a lot further away than the Tatsuta, so it's just not quite as sneaky and coming up close to those torpedo attacks is a bit more difficult. But as I said right back at the start, this is actually my favourite ship in the game. I love having the rapid firing 6-gun broadside. It just allows you to tear apart destroyers in no time at all, and also light cruisers if you aim for the waterline with AP, because they are all so weak in terms of armour. You can just smash straight through the citadel, 4 or 5 shots in the broadside and destroy them in seconds basically. Anyway, let's show you some gameplay. And I'm gonna have to apologise for this one. It was just an odd game in that throughout a lot of it I was getting frame rate stutter, which happens occasionally. Well, actually it happens quite a lot when I'm trying to record, but usually it doesn't happen through the whole game. And I was also getting a lot of lag, or lag spikes, throughout this game, which actually kind of ends up killing me there. So somebody fired a shot at me, so I start turning away. It's a bit confusing because I've got the World of Warships equivalent 6th Sense, which you just saw went off there, and nobody had spotted me yet, so it must have just been a random shot that happened to fall near me. Anyway, I've spotted a destroyer, which is probably what saw me, and I'm taking shots at it. But at this range, it's kind of a bit of luck whether I hit the destroyer or not. It has more than enough time to turn to dodge the shots. I got one hit in, but it didn't do any damage apparently. We've come around the headlines, and that's an enemy Kuma. So I'm aiming, we both fight each other at the same time. And I got lucky and got a citadel hit there and did 3,100 damage, whereas it managed to destroy my rudder, but did very little damage. And we've both decided we don't want any of this, and we're turning away from each other. But we're keeping up the fire, just because why not fire at the enemy when you can? And that was a battleship shooting at me, but it missed, so I'm very grateful for that. Firing back at this Kuma. Haven't got any more hits on it since I hit that citadel right at the start. And it doesn't look like I'm going to get any more. Well, it's at maximum range, so I'm very unlikely to. But no, those shots, it's actually already gone out of range, so there's no way those last 3 will be able to hit it at all. Okay, an enemy battleship's in range though, and that looks like a Congo. So it's probably travelling quite fast, and I aim a fair distance ahead. Fire my 6-gun broadside, which my gun's already reloaded before the shells arrive. But the shells, well, 2 of them hit, but most of them fall short, so I aim a bit higher, and then I realise it's turning, so I'm going to aim a bit to the right instead of the left of it. Fire 5 guns there. And it looks like the battleship was shooting back at me, but it managed to miss. And here we go, enemy destroyers, which are kind of what I want to kill. But because this island's in the way, I can't quite get the lead I want on that. So instead I switch to this cruiser. And I think that destroyer just launched torpedoes before it disappeared back into the smoke. So I'm turning away. Managed to get 4 hits onto that enemy cruiser. Then I do ripple fire because it's a little bit more accurate, I think. But I only get 1 because I didn't quite lead enough. So just my aim. Send out another 6. Got 3 hits. Look like they mostly went over the enemy. And that last burst all missed. They all fell short, so I obviously adjusted a bit too much there. Okay, enemy destroyer, I take a blind shot because, well, it's disappeared into the smoke. Just keep an eye out for torpedoes because, well, I know there's destroyers in that smoke and they will be firing torpedoes at us. Okay, something spotted me. I'll be that destroyer that just popped out of the smoke. So I wait for it to kind of clear this island so I can aim properly. I don't think I lead those shots quite enough, but it turns away so they miss anyway. And again it's managed to dodge, but my shots do wreck that island. Fire a last few because it's already disappeared, and obviously I just didn't manage to hit that destroyer. It was going just out of the range where I like to engage them. Destroyers I really like to get within, probably want to sit between 4.5 and 6 kilometers away from them because it gives me more than enough time to dodge their torpedoes but my guns are accurate enough at that range that I can just destroy them quickly. But I haven't really felt comfortable closing the range with these destroyers because of all this smoke, which means that I probably wouldn't spot them until they are within 2 kilometers range of me, at which point I'm not going to be able to dodge the torpedoes and they will be able to kill me quite easily. So I've had to hold off for a bit. I thought for a second I was going to get a lucky hit on that destroyer, but it wasn't to be. And again, just miss it. Oh, and someone's firing torpedoes at me, but it looks like they just hit their maximum range. And I'm kind of looking on the minimap, I see my team basically pushed around the smoke screen. So I'm feeling a lot safer now of charging straight through. And also the smoke screen's disappearing, which makes it a lot easier for me. Still not hitting that destroyer. Just can't quite get the lead that I want on it. But see, at 9 kilometers, it's actually quite difficult to hit something at that range. Those shots all fell a bit short, but it starts turning. And it turns back, so I might get lucky here. 1, 2, 3 hits. And it's hit. Enemy heavily damaged. It's now down to half its hit points left. And I get a big lag spike, which of course my ship has to accelerate to compensate for that. All my shots miss. Fire a bunch more, but I think they're all going to miss because it just started turning into me. But now, 7 kilometers range, we are starting to get to the point where I'm going to feel confident about being able to hit this guy effectively. Got 3 hits there. At 5 kilometers I should do alright. 5 hits. And there we go. That is a destroyer killed. Enemy battleship within torpedo range, so I fire off some. And my team looks like we're winning pretty well over that flank. It's just this enemy Alba heavy cruiser here, which is going to be a problem for me. It's a tier 6 cruiser, whereas I'm a tier 4, and it's also a heavy cruiser where I'm a light cruiser. And if you saw my video on cruisers, the heavy cruisers basically excel at killing light cruisers more than anything. It's got much bigger guns than me, and its guns can penetrate straight through my armour, while my guns are going to have a lot harder time of it. But I'm not doing too badly here. I think partly because the Alba's firing high explosive at me, which is annoying, and it's caused fires. But at least it's not smashing its way into my magazine and engine room and whatever. And actually the Alba's almost dead. And if you look here, there are torpedoes coming in, which I realise in a second, but we hit a lag spike, which means I can't really dodge them. And I'd say hard to... well, that was starboard, but it took so long for the command to get through that one of the torpedoes actually hits me when I should have been able to dodge those pretty easily, all things considered. And unfortunately it's still 24 seconds before I can use my repair again, and I'm not going to live. So, well played Alba. I thought it would be hard killing you, and well, you proved me right. Oh, and here's me trying to adjust my settings to try and get rid of the FPS drops, but yeah, it's not to be. It's really annoying though, because like, when my game is running without recording, it's actually running at about 70 frames per second. It's just when it's not, it goes really low. Anyway, I was going to show you the last minute of the game. You see, I mean last minute by last minute. We've got 47 seconds left. There are 2 friendly battleships down here fighting a single enemy battleship. And basically, if they don't sink it, then it's a draw and we both lose. Okay, 30 seconds to go, which means this is the last shots for both these battleships, or all 3 of these battleships really. So if they don't do it now, they're not going to be able to do it at all. This guy fires its broadside, does a lot of damage but not quite enough, and that last guy with 15 seconds to spare manages to get the kill. So it was a very close game. Well, it took 20 minutes to play out, and I ended up with 89,000 credits for 38 hits and 2,200 experience. As you see here, I didn't do great in terms of experience, at least compared to the rest of my team, but it was a tier 6 game and I'm in a tier 4 ship, so I'm pretty okay with that. And well, this clip's in here mainly just kind of show you the weakness of the light cruisers. It's just a short one. Again, it's on the fault line map and we're heading into sea. Mainly just when I was looking, I was playing the game to get some footage for the Kuma and the Tatsuta. I just kept starting right beside sea. And when you're in the light cruiser and you start beside sea, it's like, well, why not charge it? So I have a couple of games of where I start off heading towards sea, and the fault line for some reason is a really common map to pop up. Anyway, we've got a bunch of us here. There's a big smoke screen in front of us, and I know there's an enemy destroyer in front of us somewhere. But given our numerical advantage, I want to keep pushing through. So I point my ship basically directly into the smoke screen with the idea that if torpedoes are coming at me out of the smoke screen, I'm going to be presenting the narrowest target possible to them. You also see that there are 2 enemy cruisers coming around the headland from the other direction, and I don't really want to fight them. Well, there goes the enemy torpedoes, so I know at least, well, there's at least one destroyer here, and I know it's fired. There could be more though, but I decide I'm going to turn away, simply because I don't want to fight the enemy cruisers, and if I keep going on that course, I am going to have to fight them. Kind of a bit indecisively about which way is the best way to turn, but I decide I can't actually turn inwards towards those islands on my right, so I'm going to have to turn to port. And that's when we spot the enemy destroyer. And I had my guns ready, and I fired them off. And if you saw there, the enemy destroyer just fired its torpedoes. I just saw them entering the water. So I have to reverse my course to try and dodge them. Managed to sink the destroyer though with my second broadside. As I said, these guns are very good at killing destroyers. But I'm able to dodge its torpedoes. Downside is that that dodge has put me right in front of the 2 enemy cruisers. And they are a Tier 5 Omaha and a Tier 4 Phoenix. Which means, well, I'll be pretty confident I can kill the Phoenix, but the Omaha's a bit more difficult. And both of them at once is pretty hard. So I fire my torpedoes off at the Omaha, and then switch back to guns to try and kill the Phoenix. And you saw me take a big hit there. That Omaha managed to hit my Citadel, but I hit the Phoenix's Citadel. And then, well, the Omaha got a second hit onto my Citadel, and I got a second hit onto the Phoenix's Citadel. So I killed the Phoenix with 2 Citadel hits, but the Omaha killed me with 2 Citadel hits. And then my team actually got really lucky in that my wreck actually blocked all the torpedoes that the Phoenix fired, which means that the Alba, I think, was behind me, actually managed to dodge, well, get away without getting hit there when it was about to sail straight into a broadside. Anyway, this is the last game I want to show you. Oh, it's more just there for showing you some of the plays that we get in the beta test occasionally. I was going to rush into B. This was another game where I started in the light cruiser right next to the sea, and I go, no, I'm going to go to B this time, just for a change.
The enemy team is taking the lead.
B's not really a place I'd like to take a light cruiser on this map, because it's quite exposed. But we've spotted a battleship, fired 2 shots at it, and then I'm just trying to keep this island in between it and me so it can't really fire at me. And at this range I'm not really sure where its guns are pointing, but it looks kind of like they're pointing away from me. But I'm just keeping firing, and yes, they are pointing away from me. We just saw it shoot in towards our friendly ships in the sea cap. So basically what I'm thinking here is I'm going to go and do an ambush shot with my torpedoes. But it's not quite going fast enough for me to get them around the other side of that island. So I'm going to have to do it the stupid way and come around this island on a counter course to it and then fire at it. But since it's shooting at my allied ships, I should be able to get away with it. Oops, and I was turning a bit tight there and couldn't actually get my shot off. And then I'm indecisive, going, oh, maybe I should just go around the island, play it safe. But I decide against it, and well, I pay for it because the battleship gets a hit on me and does about 12,000 damage in a single hit. Well, maybe it was 2, but either way, it did a lot of damage to me. So I fire 1 spread of torpedoes on that side of the island, but it looks like the battleship's actually slowing down, so I'm pretty sure those are going to miss.
The enemy team has taken the lead.
But, well, yeah, it actually looks like it's coming to a full stop there. So I just aim the second spread directly at it. And there we go. Now I can see its guns aren't pointing at me, so I fire away with my guns. Managed to get 2 hits. And 3 more shots out. Do 200 damage. It's moving again, so my second spread of torpedoes are going to miss, but my first are also going to miss because it's not going to move forward fast enough. Okay, but my torpedoes on this side of my ship, well, I haven't fired them, so they're up and ready to go. So I should be able to get a second shot on them coming up right here. But there's a friendly destroyer in the way, and there's a good chance if I fire them now, that destroyer is going to sail right into them. So I kind of just shoot at it to provide a bit of distraction while that destroyer fires its torpedoes and gets out of the way. And no, destroyer's still in the way. And yeah, I'd have to fire my torpedoes basically directly at it. So what I decided to do is I'm going to turn hard to port, and it's going to take me in suicidally close to this battleship, but my torpedo tubes on that side should be reloaded, and I'm not going to miss at this range. It's just, it should have put the destroyer out of my line of fire, but unfortunately it's going in even closer. Even though it's fired its torpedoes, it doesn't have any more. But I'm able to fire my torpedoes behind it, and then use my guns a bit more. I'm actually really surprised that destroyer survived, because secondary guns are usually quite powerful. But managed to kill the battleship. I don't actually take a lot of damage when I closed in that close. Like, most of the damage I took was from that first hit way out at the distance. But as you can see, that destroyer wasn't that happy about it. So it's fired some torpedoes at me, but I really just can't be asked doing anything about it. And now it's shooting at me. And it took out my rudder, and I'm flooding.
We're all below the water line. We're flooding.
And there you go. I was just clean killed by that destroyer after I went to all the trouble of not firing torpedoes at it and actually putting my ship at risk so that I wouldn't accidentally hit it with my torpedoes. But sometimes you just don't get any gratitude from people. And well, it kind of doesn't matter, because we still end up winning this game pretty easily. It's a pretty easy win. But that destroyer there, I was its first team kill of a grand total of 4. So, sorry Mr. Calcifer, but I kind of felt that I had to go send a ticket into Wargaming support, and I really hope you enjoy your ban. Just flicking around seeing if there's anything good happening, but it doesn't look like it. But as you see, we're winning. Enemy only has 4 ships left, while we have a grand total of 7. And this destroyer looks like it's going to do alright here. Enemy St. Louis is not particularly manoeuvrable, so it should be able to get these torpedoes on targets pretty quickly. Except it's a stern chase, and if you've seen my video on destroyers, they don't do very well in stern chases. Anyway, we actually ended up winning, got 50,000 experience, and actually a surprisingly large amount of experience from killing that battleship. As you saw, that destroyer, -4 kills. So yeah, I'm guessing that player's not going to be in beta test for long. And did 20,000 damage with those 3 torpedoes, and only 5,000 with my guns though. But anyway, that is the Kuma and the Tatsuta, which, I don't know, if you've been paying attention, maybe you'll see why I think they're a bit over-tiered. Or under-tiered, I should say. Especially, the Kuma is better than the Phoenix in basically every way. I mean, the Kuma's got a 6-gun broadside to the Phoenix's 5 guns. The Kuma has better torpedoes. It's just... anyway. Whereas the Kuma's actually pretty comparable to the Omaha. In that case, it's a 6-gun broadside to the Omaha's 8, but the Kuma has better torpedoes. But I kind of hope they don't get moved up a tier, just because that way you can have, like, the Naga at tier 5, and that would actually be also pretty comparable to the Omaha, since it's basically a Kuma. And then you could have the Sendai at tier 6, which is way weaker than the Cleveland, but I'm expecting the Cleveland to be moved up to either tier 7 or 8. And you could actually have a decent Japanese light cruiser line after that. Well, at least up to kind of tier 8ish with like the Argonaut and then the Argonaut Kai, which they didn't actually build but they planned to. And then you probably have the Tone light cruiser variant at tier 9, and I don't know what you do for tier 10, probably some other paper ship. But anyway, that's enough of that. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time.